The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Hello and welcome to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel, AVP of Marketing with First Alliance Credit Union. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning, Andy. I have a guest with us today.
Excellent.
And yes, I've invited Sherzada Jensen, one of our real estate lending advisors here at First Alliance Credit Union, to join us on the show today. And so before we jump into the topic, I thought I would let Sherzada introduce herself a little bit, just share with our listeners kind of who you are, Sherzada, and what your role is here at the credit union.
Hello there. Yes. Good morning. So my name is Sherzada Jensen. I am the real estate lending advisor at First Alliance Credit Union, and I help our members to get mortgages, second mortgages, construction loans, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do the show, Sherzada. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
So last week, Jenna and I talked about filing your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, Jenna, I'm guessing it has to do with something to do with home ownership.
Yeah.
Sherzada here, but I guess maybe explain what our topic is this week.
Yes. Well, as we are kind of on the cusp of spring, that really does mean that the home buying season is going to be in full swing, and it's starting to pick up already. So I felt it was an important time to discuss really a variety of topics about home buying over the next few episodes. But today specifically, I wanted to dive into helping our listeners think through for themselves, determining whether or not they should continue renting or if they're ready to really take that leap into home ownership. And that's why I've invited Sherzada on the show today to help kind of talk through all of the nuances that come with both renting and home ownership to help our listeners make a really informed decision.
Excellent. It is one of the key financial decisions you will make in your life.
It is.
So it's worth talking about it and studying a bit. So I guess I'll throw it to you, Sherzada. Let's start out with what are the pros and cons of renting that people should think about? Okay.
Absolutely. So when it comes to rent, there are some pros and cons, as you both mentioned. Renters are typically not responsible for maintenance and home repairs. These are handled by the landlord or property of the management company. However, if you are a homeowner, you are responsible for the maintenance and home repairs for the home and the property you own. One of the benefits is that if you are a renter is the flexibility and mobility. So if for some reason you don't like the area that you're living at, you can always move to another city or another neighborhood. However, if you are a homeowner, that does not mean that is a drawback with that. That being a homeowner, that will provide you stability with your home, with your finances as well. So you don't have to worry about the rent going up, or that if you want to do any change to your house, or if you want to own a pet or something. Usually when you're renting, there is many rules that come with that. And when you're a homeowner, if you want to paint your living room with unicorns, guess what? You can do it. No one is going to say no to that. You are the homeowner. You have full power on that.
Yeah. Okay. Not the last one. I guess that's not one of the pros I would consider, but yeah, I'll get it. You mentioned the rules of renting and also the maintenance of renting. That I think would be one of the biggest negatives for me, particularly if I wanted to do some improvement to my property. Of the apartment that I was renting, I wanted to, add something to it. I couldn't do that, or I couldn't move this outlet to a different location. Those sort of things. That lack of flexibility inside the living space itself would be a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a big reason why a lot of people look to buying is so that they can have a little bit more of control over that living space. And I think to Sherzada's point earlier about the flexibility and mobility, I think that is one of the key benefits of renting that people often overlook is, if you're not sure that you're ready to settle down in a specific area or maybe even a part of town, or, you just aren't quite sure where life is going for you yet, buying a home is a huge long-term commitment. And continuing to rent allows you to kind of figure out, where you want to live your life a little bit more, because you do have those shorter term commitments, right? You usually have that lease for a year at a time, sometimes shorter depending on where you're living. And so it gives you the opportunity to kind of move around and figure out, well, where do you want to ultimately land for the long term? Which you definitely do not have that level of flexibility in where you live once you buy that home. So
yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to just pick up and go.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you can always sell your home,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be a different process that is involved with that. Other than that, I want to point something that is very important. When a lot of people has that myth that if you rent, it's going to be cheaper than if you purchase a home, and that is not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be clear on what are your financial goals in your life as well, and what are your goals with that. If you want that stability, purchasing a home is always going to be one of the best investments that you can do with your life and your finances on the long term. The home eventually will be gaining, its will appreciate, so you will get more money out of it. You will build equity. So what is the equity? Equity is going to be itself with the land as the market fluctuates, or even as you mentioned in the past, if you want to build something in your home, if you want to expand it, or any type of improvement that you do with it, that is going to increase the home value. So on a situation that for some reason you need extra money, maybe do a debt consolidation or something, guess what? You can use that equity that you have built in your home to help you to redo all your goals of do a debt consolidation or any other goals that you may gonna need. That is already with your home. When you rent, those monthly payments, that's money that is not coming back.
Absolutely. I know a local realtor likes to say that your home is the bank account you live in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great way to phrase that. Yeah.
I like
absolutely.
that.
But as you pointed out, I mean, there are pros and cons to home ownership as well. And maybe we should talk about some of the cons that are out there instead of all the positives.
Yes, well, some of the cons is that this is a commitment. This is a commitment that you will have for the next 15, 20, 30 years. You have to be aware that owning a home, it comes with expenses. You will have to pay for any maintenance that needs to be done. If something goes wrong with your plumber, I don't know, your plumbing or your bathroom or something, that will have to come out of your pocket. You will not have a landlord paying for that on your behalf. You will have to pay for the property taxes, and you also have to pay for your homeowner's insurance. You want to be sure that the house that you have and you are paying for is protected. But with that, there come expenses as well.
Yeah, you're right. And oftentimes people don't think of that home insurance part of it. That has become more and more expensive in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And it can add significantly to your monthly payment as it goes up. But on the other hand, rent increases have been sizable, especially where we're living here in southeastern Minnesota. So you have that to factor in as well.
Correct.
They have seen some pretty amazing increases in rent. And on the con side of home ownership, just remembering my first journey into it, you often don't think of all the things you need to purchase: the lawnmower, the snowblower,
Mm-hmm.
the rakes, the various tools you are going to need to take care of the minor repairs that you can do on your own. And as you pointed out, Sherazada, that those maintenance costs will be there no matter what. There's nobody who buys a home and does not incur expenses. Things do break no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter how new the home is, things will break.
Yep.
Yes. And that's why it's so important that whoever that decides to be a homeowner, they know how to manage their budget for their everyday expenses and have that savings for emergencies.
Okay. Well, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we can talk about some of the specific financial considerations we might want to consider if you're looking at between renting and home buying and trying to decide which one is best for you. It's Good Money Moves this week on Newstalk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel, First Alliance Credit Union, along with Sherzada Jensen with First Alliance Credit Union, a real estate lending advisor. And that'll be the perfect expert for us today because we're talking about home buying versus renting, making that decision, and the information you should consider before deciding which path to take as far as your housing is concerned. And before we went into the break, I mentioned that there are some really important financial considerations that need to be looked at before you make that decision. And maybe, Sherzada, you could talk about that. What kind of things do we need to consider as we ponder whether to continue renting or buying a home?
Some of those things as we were talking about is build equity. Anytime that you make a payment, that payment is like a savings account, is going towards your home, is building the equity there. Some of the cons that I would like to point is that when you're renting, that will be increasing the rent eventually. When you purchase your home, that is something that may gonna be reflected when you have to pay for property taxes. But the higher the property taxes, the higher the value of your home, which means that you have more equity as well. Some of the cons when you are renting is that there is a lease deadline. Versus if you have your home, we can point out that there is going to be a cost of selling. And with the renting, as I mentioned, you are not building any equity. And another con for when you have your home is that you will have to pay for any maintenance out of pocket.
Sure.
But there is no payments hikes when you have your home. You have a fixed payment that you know how much you will be paying every year. And there is no deadline that someone is going to tell you, well, I don't want to rent to you anymore and find another place to live. And yeah, that can add stress for someone. So you have that stability.
I like what you point out with the equity. As the home value increases, that's another way you increase your equity beyond the mortgage payments that you're making every month. And for most of us that own homes, you'll realize right away that's where you really do gain the equity as that steady increase in the value of your home over many years, especially if you live in a place that has solid real estate marketplaces where people are interested in buying.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can very quickly come up with new home buyer within a matter of a year or so could have 20% equity just by the gain in value if they happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. You're doing well building there. So definitely.
Yeah.
And that gain in equity is something that's also enjoyed by the owner of the apartment building rather than the renter. Their buildings are also usually going up in value. And they get to take advantage of the equity that you're actually paying for when you make your rent payments.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what is another, important consideration for people when it comes to renting versus buying is thinking about that initial down payment and some of those closing costs that come with taking out a mortgage, I know when you rent, you do have to come up with, first month's rent or last month's rent, maybe some kind of rental deposit, which can be sizable amounts of money, but still not anything when you compare that to a 20% down payment plus another 5 to 6% in closing costs to close on a mortgage. So when you're considering between renting or buying, that's a huge portion of the cost that you need to take into consideration is, do you have enough saved up to make that sizable down payment to improve your equity situation that Sherzada was talking about earlier as well. So I think it's exciting to think about like the monthly rent versus the mortgage payments, because sometimes those mortgage payments are going to be smaller than what you would pay in rent. But to even get to that point, having that really healthy down payment and the funds saved up to cover those closing costs up front are a huge consideration as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're mentioning right now about the down payment. There is a myth about having to come up with 20% down payment, which, even though that is a great way to avoid to pay, for example, mortgage, private insurance, that is not always so bad. Like, the private mortgage insurance will allow you to endorse your loan for you to have to come up with only 3% down payment. Or if you go with an FHA loan, you can even look at 3.5% down payment. A lot of first-time home buyers believe that doing an FHA loan is the way to go. However, I will highly recommend that when possible, first-time home buyers or any type of buyer should apply for a conventional loan. That type of loan will allow you to have low interest rates, would allow you to have that 3% down payment if you qualify for that, and own that home. As long as you have your 3% down payment, money saved for the closing fees, that can be between 3 up to 6%. A lot of times the sellers can help you with contributing for the sales, the payments of the closing fees. So you don't have to come up with that large amount. Mm-hmm. But we will recommend definitely to sit with a mortgage lender, and we can always help that if for some reason you are not quite there yet. We can see where you stand it up and create a financial plan in order to help you reach out that goal. That if it's not right now, that doesn't mean that it's not forever. It's just not on this moment, but we can help you to get to that. Yes, you are ready for this loan.
You mentioned the PMI, the mortgage insurance. How is that calculated, the cost of that? Because that's something you pay in addition to the mortgage.
So anytime that you do a down payment that is less than 20%, then that is when a private mortgage insurance needs to be placed on the loan.
And is that based upon the amount of money that is being
based on
borrowed?
the down payment? Yes, that's based on the down payment. And that protects the lender on the situation that if for some reason you fail on your payments, there is an insurance covering for that. So when you have less than, let's say, that 3% down payment, then you are having that private mortgage insurance endorsing your loan, saying, okay, I don't have more than 3% down, but I have this insurance protecting me and protecting you, lender, if you allow me to have this loan. So private mortgage insurance is a good thing.
Does the mortgage insurance stay with you through the entire loan, or is there a way, once you have enough equity to satisfy that 20%,
yes,
does it go away?
It goes away once that you have the 20% on equity already on your home.
All right. Good information.
Once that you refinance your home, and if your home has enough equity in it, you don't have to have private mortgage insurance neither.
Excellent. Okay. We're talking about home buying versus renting, some of the costs involved, the considerations you should be considering, with Jenna Taubel and Sherzada Jensen with First Alliance Credit Union. And we'll return in a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking good money moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell, joined by Jenna Taubel and Sherzada Jensen with First Alliance Credit Union, and the topic is homeownership and renting, and making that decision and making the best decision for you and your lifestyle. We've talked about the pros and cons of both sides, some of the financial considerations. Sherzada, are there any other considerations? I guess, I mean, the budget point. We haven't talked about that yet. How do you determine if home ownership fits your budget? What things should I be looking at?
What are your current debts? I would recommend to look into what you have right now as a debt, and it's just not only what is reflecting on your credit report, but any other expense that you are obligated to pay on a monthly basis. Look into what are your savings, what is your current income, how comfortable are you with your current expenses, and how will that may gonna look like if you add additional debt. Is that something that you can afford? And that's when it's gonna come to determining what is a realistic budget for buying a home, and understand the total cost of the ownership when it comes to those hidden costs that we were talking about, maintenance and mowing your lawn if you have one, or any other expense that goes with it. And it's important just to know as well what is your job stability and potential relocations. What are your future family planning and space requirements? If you own a pet, or if you plan to own a pet, maybe you want to look into a house that has a big yard. Or if you plan to expand your family, you want to look into maybe a 2 or 3 bedrooms home versus maybe one. Or maybe to purchase a one, and how it's going to look like for you to do that home improvement of adding an additional room. Everything will depend on your personal preferences and long-term goals.
If I were to come and speak with you or somebody else from First Alliance, and you talked about job stability and potential relocations and down payment costs and closing costs, is there a way to map that out to say, in a general way of speaking, not being too specific, that I better be able to stay in this home for this long to make it worthwhile?
That's a hard question there. It will definitely depend. I mean, I have seen people that they purchased their home and they ended up relocating. Some of them decide to sell their home. And when they sell their home, guess what? They have a ton of equity on it. So there is always a smart move with that. And some people may say, you know what? I love my home. I may gonna be traveling right now into another state for working, but I want to keep it. And what they do is that they rent their house and they ended up purchasing a new home on their new area. So everything will depend again on what are those goals. How that look like on your personal plan. Every person is different, and every goal that comes with that is also different as their current, like their loan will be as well. The mortgage loan that may gonna be for you may not gonna be the same on Jenna's situation, or another member comes to visit one of the member advisors here. Like, everyone has their own goal. Their finances look different. Their life looks different. Everything is different. So I will just recommend that whenever any type of new loan or new financial movement is planned to be done, just visit a member advisor, or if you plan to do a mortgage, please come visit me, and we'll be more than happy to explore what are the options. Maybe purchasing a home is not always for everyone, or not for on that, like have it on that moment, but we can always explore the options and create those financial plans in order to get there.
Excellent. And I know just from experience that oftentimes when people apply for a mortgage, they qualify for a mortgage that may not actually fit their budgets, that they would actually be comfortable living with. Is that something you can help with as well,
Absolutely.
to show that,
what they
maybe,
qualify for?
Yeah. You don't need the
Yeah.
$400,000 house. Maybe you should look at this house.
Yes, and that's why it's so important to meet with a mortgage lender, because maybe the amount that you have on mind, maybe you can qualify for more, or maybe you may gonna have to apply for something for less, but you will not know until you apply and until you know what is your current situation. There is something very funny when it comes to everyone that applies. There is a study that says that only approximately 45% of the people that apply for a mortgage, they decide to do the move, but the rest of the people that they could qualify as well, they don't do it just because they have that auto-sabotage of, oh my God, I may not gonna apply for this loan, or maybe that is out of my means, or they don't really know. And you will not know until you apply, until you know how your current finances are looking like. Maybe you only need a couple guidance on, okay, you need to pay this loan, keep all these payments on time, and maybe in 6 months, on 1 year, we can get you there. So home ownership is there for everyone. It's just a matter of the person meeting with a mortgage lender advisor to know where they're standing at and how soon they can have that goal of owning a home.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sherazada Jensen. I appreciate you being with us. And Jenna, I know this is the part of the show where I throw it at you to tell me where I can find out more. If we didn't cover it on the program today, where can I find more resources for making a good money move?
Yeah, absolutely. Our listeners can visit our website, firstalliancecu.com. Get subscribed to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice there every week. You can go back and listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And if you love our show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a financial topic or a question you would like covered, please send me an email at marketing@firstalliancecu.com. And of course, I strongly encourage you to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. They're here to help you start making good money moves today.
That's First Alliance Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Thank you again, Sherazada. I appreciate you taking your time today.
Thank you.
And Jenna, we will talk to you next week with another Good Money Moves.
Absolutely.
That is Good Money Moves on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.